Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2021 Saints and Sinners Festival, and thank you for coming to this panel celebrating Seven Kitchens Press and its founder, Ron Mohring. We'll hear Ron talk about the press and read from his work shortly, and we'll also hear from other Seven Kitchens Press authors. I'm your moderator, Brad Richard, author of 4 collections of poetry, including Butcher's Sugar from Sibling Rivalry Press and Parasite Kingdom from the WordWorks. In place, a chapbook chosen for the Robin Becker series will appear in 2021. I'm a faculty member of the Kenyon Review Summer Workshops, an independent teacher and writer, and secretary of the board of the Tennessee Williams New Orleans Literary Festival. I live and write in what was known as Bulbancha, place of many tongues, to the native peoples who lived in, traded in, and cared for the place the colonizers named New Orleans. It's now my pleasure to introduce our other Seven Kitchens poets. Oliver Baez Bendorf was raised in Iowa City, Iowa. He is the author of 2 poetry collections, Advantages of Being Evergreen, CSU Poetry Center 2019, which Gabriel Cavalcaresi called an essential book for our time and for all time, and The Spectral Wilderness from Kent State University in 2015, selected by Mark Doty for the Stan and Tom Wick Poetry Prize. He is also the author of the chapbook, The Gospel According to X, from Seven Kitchens. A fellow of the Cantomundo Poetry Workshop, he is the recipient of a 2021 Creative Writing Fellowship from the National Endowment for the Arts. In 2020, he received the Early Career Achievement Award from the Publishing Triangle. Baez Bendorf holds a BA in English Literature from the University of Iowa and an MFA in Poetry and an MA in Library and Information Studies, both from University of Wisconsin-Madison. He currently teaches at Kalamazoo College in Michigan. Iris McCloughan is a trans writer and artist in New York. They were the winner of the 2018 Stanley Kunitz Memorial Prize from American Poetry Review and are the author of 3 chapbooks, including Triptych, 2021, Graying Ghost, and Bones to Peaches, selected for the 2021 Robin Becker Series by Seven Kitchens Press. Their writing has appeared or is forthcoming in Juked, Jubilat, American Poetry Review, ANMLY, and elsewhere. Last but certainly not least, Ron Mohring is the indefatigable force behind Seven Kitchens Press, which has published over 150 chapbooks since 2007. His own poetry collections include Survivable World, 2003 Washington Prize winner from the WordWorks, and a really extraordinary book, which I just finished rereading last night. Also the David Museum chapbook from New Michigan Press, and Touch Me Not, a chapbook from Three Rivers Review. Poems from his new manuscript, Coordinate Joy, have appeared recently in Impossible Archetype, Under a Warm Green Linden, and The Night Heron Barks. He lives and writes in Cincinnati, Ohio. Ron, before we begin our readings, can you tell us a little about how Seven Kitchens started and how the Robin Becker series came into being?
Great. I was working at Bucknell University. I'd gone there on a fellowship and ended up staying, fortunately. So I was working with several other poets on staff there. Among them was Betsy Wheeler. And we got to talking about the press that Betsy had just started. It was called Pilot Books. And I was like, oh, I would love to make chapbooks. And she says, do it. And I thought, well, I can't just do it. And then I thought, why not? So Betsy is to thank for just poking me to get it going. So looking around and with as much familiarity as I had, I was on staff at West Branch then. I ended up becoming the fiction editor for a while at West Branch, but mostly I read the poetry slush for several years. And so I knew a lot of Pennsylvania poets, although West Branch is not, specifically Pennsylvania only writers. And I thought, well, we'll do a Pennsylvania series. So we started the Keystone chapbook series. Jeff Mann was gracious enough to judge that first year, and he selected a book by Harry Humes called Underground Singing. That's it's a phenomenal little collection. It still sells, and it's still a really good read. So that was the start. We had Robin Becker on campus, and Robin and I went to breakfast one day, and I said, I'd really like to start a queer poetry series and name it after you. And she said, why not Adrienne Rich? Why not? And I said, you have done so much, and it would be lovely to honor you in that way. And she's like, do it with my blessing. So there we go. Yeah.
Oh, that's terrific. And how many titles have there been in the Becker series?
Let's see, Iris and yourself will be number 23 and 24.
Wow.
Yes.
That is amazing. And then another 125 or so titles besides those for the whole thing. I know there are some other smaller imprints within Seven Kitchens. What are some of those?
Right. A few years ago, I reached out to a couple folks and got permission from Glenn Sheldon to launch a series in honor of Rain Arroyo, who was extraordinarily generous and kind to me in correspondence, but whom I had never really met. I was so moved by so many stories of his generosity to other poets, and I thought, why not ask? And we went right ahead with it. So it's sort of a companion series to the Becker series in my mind. We also do a series called the Rebound Series, which was my thinking about bringing out-of-print chapbooks back into print. Chapbooks that had sort of disappeared and deserved to come back. So we've done about 12 titles in that series. The newest one is Ed Madden's book. It's called Sebastian, and it just came out this month. And that is a reprint of a pamphlet that was done during a multidisciplinary art show, one night only. And so it's great to have that in more people's hands. Becker, Keystone, Rain Arroyo series. The Editor's series, I just found that there were chapbooks that had come very close, because over the first several years of the press, I had judges who would select manuscripts and thank them, but there were also manuscripts I thought, but I can't let this go. And so I started the Editor's series so that I could publish more work that didn't quite get selected. It was third place or whatever for the Becker series, for example. Plus, I really from the start have wanted to be an advocate for queer work, and so much of the Editor's series is queer work, and I'm really proud of that. And then we have the Summer Kitchen series, which is a limited edition. There's only 49 copies of each chapbook, and we bring that out in June, July, August, 4 or 5 titles every summer, which is fun. They're quick.
Awesome. Oh, thank you for that that overview and history. Your press has played such an incredible role for the last 13, 14 years in queer poetry in the United States. Really amazing, and so grateful. Let's dive into our readings. And first up, we have Oliver Baez Bendorf.
Thanks, Brad, and thank you, Ron, Iris. It's great to be here with all of you. And I will be reading all from some sections of my Seven Kitchens chapbook, The Gospel According to X. Yes, there's the other cover. And I can't say how blessed I feel to be to be a Seven Kitchens Press author, and in particular to have work on the Rain Arroyo chapbook series. By the time I sent this manuscript in, I was feeling already, Rain's work had already become very important to me. And I was also struggling with feeling like I had come to it late. And so it's been so meaningful, late, of course, meaning, after he passed, which is not late at all. And so it's been so meaningful, working with you, Ron, to feel more like I came to Rain's work right on time. And to me, having that connection facilitated is kind of exactly what I think a press like Seven Kitchens Press can do, down to the sort of the intimacy of the stitching, right? So let me just dive in here. And these are all prose poems, and they all sort of share this title. So you won't hear any titles once I'm reading. The Gospel according to X. I still rejoice when I see stars in the Northwood sky, X tells me when he awakes from bed rest, perspiring, hair matted around his face. He dreamed he saw a wolf paddling circles in a kayak under the Northwood sky, and he awoke and I was by his side and took his woolly paw in my hand. He came and dwelt in a city made only for monsters, and I was there, and you are also there, and you, and you. And if you weep in the city for monsters, you shall be comforted, for we have all wept before and will again. X wonders about the etymology of repentance. He packs pickles and wild honey and goes into the wilderness, the whole kingdom inside his campsite. Is he still forgiven if he goes not into the river, but on it? Canoe as red as the shiny red toolbox, red like a mosquito's basic identity. The whole entire kingdom is red in some places, red for secret pronouns, red in the face waiting for justice to come down. I want to tell him he does not need to confess himself, does not need to be sorry, has not sinned, but what do I know? Shame is also red and consequently everywhere. So off he goes to whisper in the woods, and we wait. Prayer is what you do when you don't know whether your animal will live through the night. Pink like Pepto-Bismol staining a goat's chin. Everything lives and dies, including my ability to be philosophical about death. X and I split a cherry soda on the docks and have a silent conversation with the waves. I diagram scars on my chest and he whistles a bluegrass tune. Cowboys and such. Is love, is loss, is only a matter of time. But there are times when hope appears with a color and dimension and particular smell, and the girl with the shiny red everything makes the terrible worth it, and though our knees ache, we are grateful. Thank you for this food we managed to keep in the ground. Thank you for our table. X tells me he is coming undone, says it's not as terrible as he expected. It's nice to see my pieces on the ground, he says, feels lighter. I watch him float upward like a balloon, something hard in front of him. He's nearing the edge, is out of sight. X becomes 1,000 men just to see what happens. Wakes up in a fog, trying to love everybody openly. I walk the isthmus with a telescope looking for signs of life in the starry night. In the wilderness, my scars look like swords and my desires hunt me down. The way an eagle in full flight lifts a salmon from the rippled water and the salmon thrusts side to side like it wants something more than just to live. There's another way to get at this beginning. Patch of morning glories next to an abandoned prairie. Did he lie down in it? I did, he says, but the fit was all wrong. The light shone yellow and huckish through the trees. Smell of leaves burning. I wake up to shiny yellow light and the sound of X weeping. Or is he singing? I think he is singing the words to a hymn we both know. I'll fly away, oh glory. From the bedroom, I applaud, but through the wooden door, he mistakes my clapping for a bad dream. Shiny red girl drives around with a shriveled goat testicle in the cup holder of the car. Make me a shepherd, Lord. Give me a delicate crook. On my back in the clearing, I listen for rustling in the timothy next to the creek, but hear nothing. X gets stronger in an invisible way, hungry, out of money, but less afraid, etc. Are we all less afraid? X's shoulders grow in a way that feels like wings. Some days a ghost and others a dragon. Some days the shepherd and some days the sheep, but always a boy and never, ever, 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 ever a man for as long as he is able to cry or until some other things change around here. Our Father, which art on an asparagus farm in Iowa, hallowed be my name, chosen and made lawful before a county judge. Thy kingdom has come in the form of an aluminum Airstream camper. I can't pretend to understand the kinds of desires that hit on that side of the hill, and whatever a person's daily bread is, I support it. X is busy forgiving himself his sins, cursing the impossibility of a self-same grudge. Who trespass against us are the makings of our mind. Who evil? Lead me with a foghorn. Deliver me a machine to make bubbles. Shiny red kingdom. Oh glory. Oh Lord. Just I think I'll just read the last two sections here and then finish up. I do believe in something, Lord. I create things. It's heaven to me being close to the earth through creation. I made myself into a sun. Lord, I thought it up all by myself. Spiritual. Here I am, indeed, holy. I don't know what I believe in or who or how much. I just sing holy, 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 and nothing in particular. But if all of us are singing, then I don't feel so stupid. Is holy, is together, is forgiven for the sin of being a body. Holy, I still love everybody. The last time I see X, he is carrying firewood into the wilderness. I can still hear his voice when I put my ear against the knotty pine and quiet. How does it sound? Red and cracking. X sang like a dirty break when we sang. I'm not worried. I'm stopping here.
Thank you so much, Oliver. Those were fantastic.
Thanks so much.
Those are great. Next up, we have Iris.
Hello. My name is Iris Mccluhan. So the pronunciation was close. I didn't want to derail your introduction.
My apologies. I meant to ask before we started. Sorry about that.
It's one of those things that whenever I participate in an event, I always remember that I should have done it 5 seconds after the event begins.
Well, I'm a Richard, and so I'm usually Richard. So yeah.
So you know the feeling.
Yeah.
I wanted to say thanks for including me in this event, and I'm just really thrilled to be now a part of this kind of rhizomatic network. And I look forward to learning more about where that network extends. I'm going to read a couple poems from my chapbook, Bones to Beaches. And the chapbook has a narrative structure. And so I'm going to read kind of 4 poems that follow that narrative. I'll read the first poem, the last poem, first poem, 2 poems in the middle, and then the last poem. So the first one is called Restraint. This is my practice, holding the little flowers at the angle that makes them bloom. There's a light fragrance in the kitchen. I smear myself, get lost. Pots, pans, an empty page. I swear to whatever is outside the weird window, I will defy history, which is entropy with another face. I will raise the blank mask to cover my listing smile. I will erase every small joy before making what I will make. This next one is called Promissory. I come upon him studying with a twilight diligence. I see he has mostly accepted the long evening of work ahead. The blueprints are spread before him and he's begun to label orchard, field, and smaller things too, single wave, smear of ash on palm. The candle is smoking, slowly filling up the reading room with a barely noted buzzing darkness, like the sound of cicadas still underground one town over, getting dressed in their armor, preparing to do battle with their brief, wonder-soaked lives. There's an expectation, he knows it, and so do I. An expectation, though we can't tell where it's coming from, can only tell something is coming, and soon. So I am learning how folded I've been, tracing the path of each familiar crease. I am practicing how to get smooth. He is preparing for the long exam, studying a recondite origami. There was a time when the symmetry seemed too by the book, too rote, but to all those that question the tropism guiding the growth of love's spines through our lives, note his hands, how they slow and float cloud-like over the temple I've always been told my body is. The calm battering he gives teaches me that instead of mud, my body is silk scarves, a small tornado of them, all patterned with the real and imagined flowers of the field. And when my veil has been adequately weakened by all his precise and unreadable folds, after it has been rent with little to no ceremony, the gentle and translucent dervish that is me inside my body will wind both of the pieces up and flash them alternately. Now joy, now grief, now both overlaid for all to see. This one is called The Numbered. I gave up myself. What of it? I know there's no consequence, especially at this party. All the guests joke wittily about results. I wear my blank mask and nod, anticipating the suited attendant and the iron press. He wheels it in and I hover, my little black dress barely able to cover my excitement. Next to the elegant spread of cheese and summer fruit, I turn out my purse. Scraps of paper and food, gray hairs, other unnameable scrapings, all tumble down into the hopper, and I fix my empty bag to the mouth of the machine. He cranks, forcing out any excess. The bag sags and my pulse quickens, accelerando until he's done. I unhook my purse, feel it drop to the floor. It's just as heavy as I'd hoped. I look down into the shining stuff that's been expelled and collected. I dip my finger, pop it in my mouth, taste the images in a torrent. What the body sheds, how its smell lingers. The 1,000 discarded moons, the fingernails, the skin, the past over wine, film on the crystal glass, the bowl, dark grapes, stained barrel, slate gun, brace of dead doves, mottled feathers dripping, mottled light. The table filled over and over, abundance forcing the stoic wood to bend. I snap my purse shut, dragging it behind as I begin my round of goodbyes. I have another party to attend, one with less wit and fewer guests. Just you and me, continuing our long and purpling exchange. I arrive at the empty ballroom we've rented indefinitely. My purse is open, and from it comes a low light, a hired accompanist to the song we're finding line by line as we witness one another, walking together backwards into the silvered sleep, laying each other down in the velvet-lined oubliette. And this last one is called I Decline. In a real library, the man I belong to is searching the philosophy section. I am wandering through poetry, hoping someone will speak to me. At random, I grab a small purple book, paperback, wounded with marginalia, the absent-minded scraps of thought another wanderer inscribed, then walked away from. They are mostly nonverbal, abstract, vague geometries of pencil marks, and a few cross-hatched sketches of fruit and flowers. The technique is apt, though lacking urgency, unacquainted with the need that sometimes makes a visitation and pushes our hands to paper in a rushed scrawl, marks twining around themselves to result in a poem, or nothing but repeated strokes on a receptive surface. The man I belong to touches my back, asks if I'm ready to go. He's got a book of Plato's, though he hates the Greeks. I don't know enough about philosophy to hold it up here in an intelligent way. And truth be told, I often feel I have little use for it, preferring instead the slightly unsettled afternoons, the tide of reverie rising and falling around me like tulle in the breeze from an open window. I nod to him, follow his hand's direction to the door. Outside, it's another jewel-toned day, not even 4 yet. Hours of light remain. My smile lists. I know what's coming. The bed, the empty page. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Iris. My goodness. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, really wonderful. All right, I'm going to read a few from my chapbook in place, and I might sneak in one more recent one. So, and I'll sort of be moving from the past into the present. So this first one is called Cinderella. 19, I liked how tank tops, tight jeans, cutoffs showed off my 100 push-ups, my lakeside runs. Drag's magic wasn't mine, but it dazzled when Dallas showed up to work a la Brooke Shields, his chunkier, broad-shouldered body beguiling as a girl I could get into. It was 1983. My world seemed small, tidy, divided into men's and women's, hits and misses. Dallas needed a wedding dress for a show he meant to win. So after the tips split and shift drinks and ones for the road, we waiters and busboys grabbed our go cups and catwalked to the fancy resale shop next door. The owner, Dee's pal, had given him the key and her blessing for one night to try on whatever we wanted. Girl, you're gonna rip these seams, squealed Ray, tugging at the zipper that refused to budge another inch up Dee's back. God fucking damn, that was the one. He squirmed, shuffling off the brocade-coiled gown he'd scoped all week. Ray and the gang consoled him as they processed into realms of lesser dresses. I lingered, seduced by the gown that spurned Dee's girth. Then stripped, stepped into the sheath, reached behind, zipped. You bitch, and you not even a queen. No, never outside those walls, but as my queen's cood tugged and turned me for a crowded mirror, I saw myself at 14, done up as Frankenfurter, a Rocky Horror Party starlet, pert in thigh-highs, garters, and corset. And see, at 9, I'm the star of my solo closet dramas, raiding mom's walk-in when she goes out, some other body tingling under flowy rayon prints, princess. So many suitors cloaked in their pursuits. Staying in the past for a moment. Reruns and premonitions of September 1974. Hijinks and laugh tracks, afternoons after school in the den with Chris, my college student babysitter, snacking in the glow of his parents' black and white TV. Star Trek, Gilligan, monsters, ghosts stranded in backlot galaxies like me haunting this childhood scene. Chris props a sketch pad on his lap, sketches unpeopled mountain landscapes, picks with a thumbnail at scabs of paint on his hands. Slouched outside the sliding door, a shaggy mimosa frilled with frilly blooms, starburst clustered gold-tipped stamens. A game. We palm roll slices of white bread into fleshy balls, see who can roll the biggest, and pop the pale glob whole into his mouth. I chew and fidget, stretch my hand to fumble in the bread bag between us, just to heal my luck. Sun low in the mimosa, glare sliding in, dim shapes creep across the screen, and turpentine and sweat drift from Chris's body to my nose, my thigh twitching near his. Won't he ever lean over and croon to me, oh, little buddy, captain's log. Mimosa roots slow-mo strangling pipes, cracking slab, my ship at warp speed vanishing, our bodies shimmying into vapor. I beam back to this abandoned den. Too late. Nothing to eat. Nothing on TV. Just speckles of starlight. Oh, spectacles yet unseen here. I'll get by. I've gotten by on less. And now a tonal shift and a temporal shift. This one's called Home. 2 men, 3 cats, a dead dog's bowl. The dog's ghost under the dining table, licking and licking one paw. A mother's spirit forms, 6 glass nesting hens, 2 ceramic roosters, the smaller, it turns out, Portuguese. A stout wooden hen and her chicks, each on wooden wheels, ready to cart the mother's ashes down a Texas country road. So much clutter, clucks one of the men, clearing the table, junk mail in one hand, books in the other, his mother's ashes resting on a closet shelf and in the garden with one of her cats. Under the bed, a suitcase of family photos, including a negative of Bonnie and Clyde posing by a car on a gravel road, like the road the mother's ashes hovered above one spring. His mother and Bonnie shared a last name, and now they're smoking together under a cottonwood, leaning like a pair of wagon wheels against the side of an abandoned barn, while he's at his desk with papers yet to be filed and folders already full. Where does it all go? He asks, moving books from chair to liquor cabinet to the floor by the tub, moving books he has examined but never read, including one he never intends to, the one his mother never finished, which spends its nights with the suitcase under the bed, unsleeping, undreaming, staying put, shut tight. Um, Back to the present. These last two poems, one is about a tree and the other one's about a flower. So this one is Chinese Tallow. Even the moon struggles to rise from this invader's shaggy limbs. I tried salt, have considered kerosene, poured one midnight over the fence and onto the roots of my neighbor's tree. Not really theirs, this squatter, its seed shitborn by wren or sparrow, its suckers and pods staking claim to my garden plot, my lawful lot, its shade stunting my satsuma, its bulk blocking the view I had years back from my darkened kitchen. A second story bedroom window where, for a few nights, I watched a young man standing as he fucked an ass meeting his thrusts, so eager, he, so relentlessly alive, as if everlasting, stark as a flame-lit icon in an Eden not mine to lose. And the last one is Zenya's. There's never enough time to see everything in the museums we visit most often. I planted 10 packets of seeds, and only these sprouted, grew 5 feet high, and blew face down in last night's storm. Watching my husband chop an onion, I think of all the poets no one reads. Rooted in air, rooted in smoke, washed away in silt-bearing floods. Don't worry, it's firm, I call out to my 4-year-old godson as my right leg sinks to the knee in the mound of dirt I'm climbing. Thank you. And next we have Ron Mohring.
This is delightful, y'all. I'm so excited about bringing the new work out in just this series. I have a couple of short poems, and Brad mentioned Coordinate Joy, this manuscript. I've been working on 2 manuscripts for a very long time, like 10 years. So the one that's probably coming out next is called The Boy Who Reads in the Trees, and I'll read something from that in a moment. These are from a series I'm doing called Catches and Stays. And the idea of the series is for each chapbook that we've published through 7 Kitchens, I'm taking one line from one poem and writing a poem from that line in appreciation and homage to the whole shebang. So this one is from Jeff Oakes' chapbook Shift. It's called Who Cannot. He is wasting his time trying to sing. He strips rose hips, brilliant in November rain, stuffed into damp pockets, found shrunken, blackened later. So why steal ever? Bright bits flaming against winter, glancing thought that these are good, but for what? Rose fruit, hips, ships packed for some tomorrow, for the birds, what meager meat. A casual thief, he pockets seeds, bits of bark, cicada husks so bleached and whisper thin, it's unthinkable they might have ferried such raucous bodies from the earth. He walks and walks, feet numb in wet sneakers, white plume of breath escaping, hovering, nothing but water and air. And this one is from Boyer Rickles' chapbook, the first chapbook of his I published called Reliquary. It was nothing. Just tall enough to raise the hammer, but never able to drop it on the gaping heads of whiskered catfish, those sad comics in their too tight suits we had to shuck with pliers, their beady eyes rolling in bewilderment. Of course it wasn't. Of course my neighbor knew better than to take me fishing, though I begged him. Of course the worms writhed in something other than pain, though it looked like pain, though he said it was nothing when the cat finned him good and the blood seeped from his wrist. Blue boat rocking on the pond, sun beating our backs, green heron clamped like a bundle of rags to the half-sunken log, dragonflies lighting on our rods, then flicking off again. The care he took, so natural, inevitable. And hadn't I latched onto him? Wasn't this what I wanted without knowing it? Dazed, acquiescent, carried out of my fevered body and into the cloaking shade of the dumbstruck trees. Little tonal shift. R.J. Gibson's first chapbook with us was called Scavenge. And from his poem With You as Vincent, the line was, you look like a self-portrait. So this is called Forcing Narcissus. You look like a self-portrait, but feel like a mirror. You need us to know how you are. Resplendent in whatever, topped off with that faux casual dew. If we touched your hair, would it shatter? Your fuck me or don't, I don't care slouch, your coyly jaded demeanor. You can't keep your eyes from flicking toward each new arrival, potential suitor, threat to your domain, fresh unsullied tongue to maybe plumb and plunder your stunning ass. You never know unless you ask. Honey, please, come down from your silly high horse. Life's hard enough without this inscrutable posing. There. Slightly longer poem, and then I'll close with another short one. These are both from The Boy Who Reads in the Trees. Believe it or not, we drove the van all the way, Cincinnati to Niagara Falls. Dew spangled the chilly grass. Odd black squirrels capered near our picnic table, then vanished in the heavy fog. Like traffic, a faint roar made me shudder. How close were we to where the earth and water dropped? We found a tower, rode up its outside elevator, clinging to the bar. Looking down at the horseshoe, the stacked plume, someone decided we ought to ride on one of the bobbing white boats. The deafening water, the yellow slickers, the tourists gripping wet wooden rails, the women and men locked inside barrels, rocketing into the hole carved by the plunge. I threw up in a bucket. Later, we visited the Ripley's Museum. The man who ate a bicycle piece by piece, the monks who walked with candles stuck in sockets drilled into their skulls, women who stitched so finely they lost their sight. In the bathroom, a man stepped up to the urinal next to mine, shook his cock, kept shaking it. I felt all clammy and couldn't pee. The door opened again. I spun around, dashed out. There were chairs with leather straps. There were shiny pans and instruments for sawing bones, jewelry made from human hair. In the lobby, a giant faucet seemed to float in midair, gushing constant water. A trick, my sister said, but we couldn't figure out how it worked. I remember heading up into Canada and lakes and digging spruce seedlings with a butter knife. We hid them in a plastic cooler, said nothing when asked by the man at the border if we'd anything to declare. And this is a new poem. I think it's going to close the collection. It's sort of a ghost poem called Who Are You? It starts from a line by Marie Howe. The space my brother's body made has filled entirely with smoke. His jacket, a gray lung, hangs across the long face of the brown carousel horse behind our mother's leather sofa. She's fallen asleep in her chair, her white hair askew, her head cocked at an alarming angle. He's stepped off the porch into the dark, spongy yard, training his halogen flashlight into the trees as if he might silence the shrilling owl that just won't quit. Like a man whose throat's been cut, but who keeps on trying to sing. Or nothing like that at all, though now there's no way to banish the thought. Just show yourself, he murmurs. Give me one clean shot. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ron. My goodness, that's an amazing project. Wow, those are terrific. Wow, this is such a great way to start my day. My head's so full of all this incredible poetry, and like this is a moment when I really do wish we were in person. But I'm just gonna throw I would love to talk with everybody about all of your work and what you're doing, but I'm just gonna throw one big question out there for us and see where it goes, and that is, what excites you the most about 21st century queer poetry, or about queer poetry in the 21st century? Whoever wants to start.
Well, I can dive in, and I think simply that there's so much of it. And I know that might sound, simpler than it actually feels. I love that there's more than I could ever read, even if that's all that I did. I love that about it. It feels so comforting and exciting. And then I think the other thing is just how eclectic it is. How, you can find everything from formal innovation to, the queer pastoral, to just everything. And, with sexuality also running through that in the, mixed up with the other sort of distillations of life. So I love that, how much there is of it, and how eclectic it is. And I hope it can continue to be just even more flourishing in those directions.
Agreed. And as one who, when I first started writing poems and reading poems, it was only by accident that I discovered Allen Ginsberg in the stacks of the library. And journals to take queer poems was just not happening. So it's wonderful and amazing to see it just everywhere now, just blowing the doors off of every venue that before had been closed queer work. It's so exciting.
Yeah, I think a lot about the difference between being tolerated and being celebrated.
Yep.
And to kind of echo what Ron is saying, something that excites me is how many outlets and journals and online venues are really beginning from an ethos of celebration, active celebration, and not a kind of feeling like the queer work is getting mixed in or like slowly introduced, or there's maybe one or two token pieces in a sea of non-queer work. That sort of surveying that landscape that exists now and that is continuing to expand, it's just, it's incredible to see what is out there and to see the work that's being done to create those kind of spaces and contexts where the work can be truly celebrated.
Yes, I'm just going to say yes to everything that everyone just said, but just pulling some things together. I love the intersectionality of it too. It's like that goes along with there just being the flourishing that Oliver was talking about. Just such an incredible range from Denez Smith to Jerry Brown to us, and the fact that it, thinking about the celebrating part that you were talking about, Iris, too, the fact that it is welcoming also in an intergenerational way too, which is really important. I mentioned at the beginning that I had just reread Ron's first book, Survivable World, which is from 2003. So really fits into the 21st century context we're talking about. But man, it was so amazing. Just like 17, 18 years. That's a long time ago. And I was back in a dark and scary place that we are very fortunate to not be living in which there is room for the kind of joy that I think we're all pointing to here. Tracy, our kind moderator or moderator, invisible moderator here. I'm the visible moderator. She's kindly giving us a lot of room here. So as one of the things that I work on with the Tennessee Williams Festival is education outreach. So I think I'll just ask one last question for us to close with. Thinking about all the things we were just talking about, what, I hate to even say advice, but what encouragement would you want to give to a really young queer writer right now?
I would say, Oliver talked about the kind of the wealth of work on offer. And I would just encourage them to remember that truly is like a historical archive that is not dead. It contains like lineages of knowledge and work that got us to where we are today. And I remember when I was like a much younger writer and I started discovering poets who were writing explicitly queer poems. And suddenly I realized like, oh, this is my instruction manual, there's real stuff here that I can use. So yeah, I think my advice would just be, remember that is available to you and it is yours.
Beautiful.
I think mine would be similar. Brad, building on that, and also Brad, you mentioned the word intergenerational, which I had on my mind as well. And this past year in the isolation of the pandemic, I've been really reminded of what a role reading played for me when I was growing up in Iowa. And I know for certain that my life is possible because of what other queer poets wrote down or what was not written down until someone else wrote it, what sort of moved orally until someone else wrote it down. And so to me, that's been such a persistent source of like what I want to do with my own writing also. And so I think, but to direct that toward your question would just be lean into, whatever solace of the reading offers and whatever that needs to be, and, right back to it. And there's deep companionship there, and sort of blueprints for possibility being handed forward in ways that we don't often experience in, our family of origin, sort of biological lineages. So, yeah.
Oh, I love that phrase, deep companionship. That's awesome. Ron?
It's also, am I a queer poet? Yes, of course. Is my work queer? Sometimes I think no, and then I read it again and go, oh, of course. And so there's that in my head every day. It's that line from Sondheim Sunday in the Park with George, where Dots comes back and sings to George at the end, or near the end of the play, where she says, everything you do, let it come from you, then it will be new. And it seems so simplistic, but and Dot as a character, and a dot as in a pointillist painting is one dot, one whole life, one whole view, one whole world is one dot, and we are each dots, in everything we do coming through us. So I say trust your voice, even if you don't know what your voice is yet. Trust your voice. And I respond to writers frequently because I read manuscripts, all the time. And it's trust your voice. Just keep going, keep getting it down. And yes, read, but keep going. You're safe here. And we want what you have. Just get it out.
Beautifully said. I think the only tiny thing I'll add, which is just rephrasing something everybody's been saying, which is you have permission. You have all the permission you want.
Yes.
So, yeah. Oh, Ron, Oliver, Iris, this has been a really wonderful, wonderful thing. One of my favorite panels I've ever done, truly. Thank you so much for your time, your work, and your presence here. And I hope we will get to meet in person sometime soon.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful to be able to just lift up Seven Kitchens Press today. And Ron, Brad, Iris, thank you all of you so much for all that you do, just all that you are. Brad, you giving permission right now, I know that was meant for younger people, but I'm taking it. When you said it, I was like, I need to hear that. Don't we all every day? So thank you.
Yeah, that's an eternal lesson, I think.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.